always thought trust was a currency that doubled when shared, especially in business and family, and for years, I operated on that belief like it was gospel, never imagining that the two people I trusted most, my business partner and my sister, could unknowingly become the architects of my downfall. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Jason Marks, 34, co-founder of a real estate development firm called Urban Stitch, and the man I brought into the business from day one was Daniel Reyes, a friend since college who started with me when we had nothing but ambition and ramen noodles for dinner, and together we built an empire, or so I thought, until one seemingly ordinary night unraveled everything I believed to be true, and it all began with a phone notification I wasn't supposed to see, a simple bank alert for a $9,300 transfer from one of our minor project accounts to an unknown vendor named Chamberlain Consulting, which I didn't remember approving, and Daniel wasn't supposed to make unilateral decisions without my sign-off, so I called him that evening, and he gave me a generic explanation, something about last-minute logistics and a temporary contract to secure land rights in one of our outer city developments, and I wanted to believe him, I really did, but something in his tone scratched at my instincts like sandpaper on skin, so I logged into our internal systems and started digging, not in a paranoid way, more like a precaution, but what I found disturbed me deeply. This Chamberlain vendor didn't exist in our approved databases, and when I checked the transaction history, I discovered similar payments, smaller ones at first, $800 here, $1,200 there, starting nearly 5 months ago and totaling over $100,000, which had been slowly siphoned from different accounts, like a leech that knew exactly how much blood to drink without being noticed. And when I confronted Daniel face to face in the office the next morning, he didn't flinch, didn't deny it, just said, "You don't understand the pressure I've been under." Like that somehow made it okay, and before I could explode, he walked out mid-conversation, leaving me stunned and furious, and I spent the next several hours pacing like a caged animal, thinking about how blind I'd been. That same night, I called my sister Mia, the only person I could really vent to. Mia, who was 26, sweet, loyal, and had always looked up to me since our parents passed away when she was 19. But she didn't answer, which was odd because she always did, and I drove over to her apartment around 9 p.m. just to check on her, using my spare key because she never minded. But when I got to the door, I heard voices inside, low and muffled, and I froze because one of them sounded familiar, like Daniel, and I waited, heart pounding, thinking maybe it was a misunderstanding. But when I peered through the narrow hallway window and saw Daniel's jacket, his damn leather jacket, hanging on her coat rack, I felt this cold sink into my chest, a kind of numb rage that made my vision blur, and I stepped back, not ready to confront them yet, instead choosing to walk away in silence, burning with questions I couldn't answer. And over the next week I barely slept, watching both of them from a distance, gathering evidence, unraveling the threads, because I needed to be sure before I brought everything crashing down. And what I discovered was worse than I imagined. Daniel hadn't just stolen money, he had funneled it into a side company registered under his cousin's name, buying small commercial plots in my blind spots and setting up a future without me. And the emotional part? He'd been seeing Mia behind my back for months, building trust with her, slowly poisoning her against me, convincing her that I was controlling, that I'd eventually sabotage her future for my own goals. And the way he did it, carefully, calculatedly, layer by layer, was the kind of betrayal that doesn't just hurt, it reshapes your entire belief system. So I stayed quiet, kept working, even smiled at Daniel in meetings while secretly copying hard drives, extracting emails, recording conversations, and I hired a forensic accountant to help me track every fraudulent wire transfer, every fake invoice, every shell account linked back to him. And when I had what I needed, over 200 pages of evidence, I didn't go to the police first. Instead, I planned something far more personal, far more surgical, because I wanted Daniel to feel what betrayal tastes like when served cold, and it started with a fake investment opportunity, a luxury apartment development in a booming area, something too good to pass up, and I offered it to him on a silver platter, made him believe that a major investor wanted him, not me, to lead it solo, but the condition was that he had to submit all his finances and business activity for a background check, and like the arrogant snake he was, he agreed without blinking, sending in all his forged numbers and offshore balances. And the moment he signed the investment contract, I forwarded the entire packet to the state attorney, SEC, and IRS, and then I did the unthinkable. I went to Mia's apartment at 2 a.m., knowing Daniel was likely there, and I knocked, waited until she opened the door in her pajamas, shocked to see me, but before she could say a word, I stepped inside, and there he was, sitting on her couch shirtless, holding a glass of wine, completely frozen when he saw me, and I didn't shout, didn't scream, I simply tossed the folder of evidence on the coffee table and said, "You have 48 hours to make things right, or I bury you in court." And I turned to Mia, who looked pale like the walls had closed in, and I said, "I thought you were smarter than this." And I left without another word, letting silence do what rage couldn't. 2 days later, Daniel tried to clean house, moved money, closed accounts, begged Mia to run away with him. But the authorities were already watching, and he was arrested before he could board a flight to Costa Rica, while Mia, utterly broken, called me sobbing, saying she never knew what he was doing, that he said he loved her, that she thought he was helping her manage her student debt. And I didn't know whether to comfort her or scream, but I chose the former because even though she broke my trust, she didn't deserve to be destroyed by him. And in the weeks that followed, I testified in court, watched my former best friend get sentenced to prison, watched Mia move out of that apartment and into a therapist's office, and watched myself slowly rebuild from ashes, learning the hardest truth I've ever faced. Betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from those who know your heart and exploit it. And now every time I walk past that street, past her old building where I saw him that night at 2 a.m., I remember what it felt like to lose everything you trusted in one moment of moonlit silence. And I remind myself that trust isn't given freely anymore. It's earned in scars.